So this is actually from the Chill Hop Music Station on YouTube. It's Dry Hope, White Oak Chill Hop Beats. So I'm actually not sure if the song is called Dry Hope or if it's called White Oak. But Dry Hope and White Oak are both a part of this little ditty that I found here today. I started to do a video last night. I mean, I did one. It was just all over the place, and despite me saying at the end of that recording, I'm still going to post this, I did not post it. Because you know why? That's also something very much about me. I don't know if it's an open will center kind of a thing, open G center, open will, but that will to stick to things, or especially if I say, like, if I've been going, like, say I've been, you know, frequenting a group or doing something that's like a weekly event or a frequent enough event that's consistent. I never, like, I will show up as long as I don't say I'll see you next week. It's almost like the minute I say I'm going to do something in terms of like showing up or I'm going to send this email, I'm notorious about I'm going to send you this email. Of something that has come into my awareness, of something that made me think of you from a conversation that we had, blah, 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 and I am notoriously bad about sending that stuff. Which, as I'm talking this out right now, I'm kind of like, yo, no wonder you're having such an issue with doing these videos, because you're trying to establish some sort of, I'm going to do this consistently, I'm telling the world all of the things, you know, all the things that I'm going to do before I do it, and it's like, I'm sure it's in the design. Like, no, you're not built that way. In fact, the moment you say something like that, you're not going to do it. So you might want to keep mum about it. That's so funny. That kind of segues into something that I was thinking. Well, everything's going to segue into something I was thinking, Leslie. But it was something like, I was wondering about children. You know, like how we, you know, we just accept children have these phases, right? And it's like, oh, that was her, you know, bad teen phase, or that was her drinking phase, or that was his promiscuous phase, or when you go lower, I mean, obviously those aren't children. I mean, teenagers are children, adolescents and stuff. But I'm thinking even younger, where it's like, you know, the child comes out and they're like, you know, dressed as a cowboy, cowgirl or something, and then you're like, well, who are you? And you're like, don't you know? And they have a whole name and a backstory and all sorts of things. Oh, sorry, the YouTube song that I was on went off. I don't even know if it's still playing, but I certainly didn't want to hear the commercials. So let's just skip ads because I'm not on no YouTube Red. There we go. Vintage 50s, lo-fi hip-hop beats. Ooh, I'm with that. I love the lo-fi crackle. I didn't know that was because it's like dirt on old records, but I like that. I like that sound. I don't know. I'm a little crusty. Maybe that's why. Where was I going? Oh yeah, those children who, you know, it's like they can come out and every day it's like there's a whole backstory, there's a name, there's this character, they know exactly who they are. And then, you know, maybe once the phase is done, maybe it's a month, maybe it's a year. Sometimes, like, if they're young enough, it's the next day, right? So then the next day, it's like, well, I'm a princess today. Duh. I don't know. I wonder, as not being a parent, I suppose I should ask more parents in my own little informal study, if, like, do they announce it every time? Like, okay, Mom, tomorrow I'm going to be a princess, okay? Tomorrow I'm going to be a cowgirl, and I'm going to come out, and I'm going to be on my horse, and you got to do this, and you got to do that. I'm sure with some kids, but I think or children, I need to stop saying kids. I suppose some children do that. Maybe it's like even a personality type-ish thing. But I was just thinking, as far as like when I'm reflecting and looking over my videos and looking over my writings and yada yada yada, and it's just like I know part of me, there's some resistance in like recording and well, there's a lot. There's a lot. But because I'll feel like, well, I just said that I was going to do this, so I need to do this. Or, well, I should say what I'm going to do before I change it up, like with the music or with posting every day, or that I'm going to write and I'm going to blog. And I was thinking, I was reflecting on it. I'm like, do children announce everything that they're going to do, or do they just do it? Do they just try? Do they just fail? Do they see? I mean, maybe fail is kind of a harsh word, where it's sort of like they're not failing, they're just giving it a shot and seeing what sticks. And wouldn't that be better for us all to do? I mean, I guess all of us who are not manifestors, because manifestors, then yes, please inform us what you are all going to do, so then we can all therefore respond and hear the invitation and, you know, and all that good stuff. But considering that, what, it's like 81% of the population are not manifestors, that might just be another little indicator, just might be an indicative fact of how, blah, blah, I should have just put an indicator, but that might be indicative of how we as a world have bought into we all need to be these manifestor types. And of course, when I say manifestor, I'm speaking in terms of human design as part of a specific aura type. Not like, can I manifest the car space or the or the washing machine? I put it in the notes, but I did manifest that. Now, my laundromat for my apartment building, they run on an app. Like, you can use quarters, but do you know it's becoming increasingly difficult to locate quarters? I literally even went to my branch, my establishment, and I live in the city, and they were like, we're cashless now. And I was like, well, first I'm asking you for coins, not cash, so don't worry about that, but no, but I was like, how are you going to be in the city in a bank and then be cashless? And this was pre-COVID stuff. So then, I mean, like, I'm in a city, there's a lot of financial institutions, so I started going to another one, and all I was doing is, like, trying to exchange $20 for $20 worth of quarters, and they started to give me a rough time about, well, you're not one of our branch's members. And I'm sitting here like, how can they even say that? They are a financial institution. Aren't they supposed to exchange? And I don't know, I may have already talked about that on another day too, because that really did blow my mind. But I say all that in my digressive ways to talk about the app, right? So after all that, I finally bit the bullet, because I am a little suspect to like Bluetooth and just having everything on your phone. I'm a little suspicious. And I finally bit the bullet and was just like, let me just use this darn app and I'll do whatever additional protective measures I can do for that. But yada, yada, yada. I get there that day and there were machines. All the machines were available. You know why? Because the app probably wasn't working and then nobody had quarters. So it was an unfortunate state of affairs for me that I just ended up laughing off and then doing laundry the next day when it was totally fine. It was very like Truman Show-ish, right? Like when, well, no, it's not like that at all. I was going to say when he was like leaving and then all of the cars had pulled into all of the outgoing streets and then he's like, oh, okay, well, I'll go another way. And then he goes to go another way, but then it's like, I changed my mind. He goes back and then all of a sudden the streets is cleared. So I was going to compare it to that. I mean, in a way, I guess, but in not a good way. I mean, not in a bad way, but never mind. Let me just keep going, because I wanted to just stick with the manifestation. Oh yeah, most of the world thinks they're manifestors, but we're not. So we're all going around informing on everything that we're trying to do. But you know what? If you're like me, you're falling into some pattern or habit of like, now that you've informed, you no longer want to do, or it's easier now not to do. I don't know. It's such a curious, I don't know if this is just a me thing, and it kind of ties into, like, you know, my issues with deliberately creating and manifesting, not as a manifestor Aurea type, but as a creative divine child of Mother Father God being who can create and make magic up in this mamma jamma as that being. It's like I struggle a lot with identifying what it is that I want. I mean, I've taught law of attraction discussion groups, or I facilitated law of attraction. I'm very hesitant to say that I taught, but I facilitated a meetup group, so law of attraction discussion groups, and I always try to bring different things to the table, but basically it was to help us, like the people who attended and stuff, to learn how to create deliberately and effectively. And I mean, I've taught meditation. I've been on this path for a good minute. My background is in the behavioral sciences, just all sorts of these things where this would always be on my mind. And I am not new to the fact, see, oh, this is what's happening, like, a thought is coming in, and I'm like, oh, I need to share that, oh, I should share that, but then if I share it, I'm going to lose the other thing that I was saying, and then that's quite frustrating, and I know it's from the digression, but then I'm like, it takes me forever to get back, and it's not concise. Maybe that's okay, maybe that's just like, oh, that's just your adorable storytelling style. To me, it's flippin' annoying a little bit, because I would like to have the thoughts, and that actually, see, here we go again, that actually brings me up to another point I was thinking about with all of this, where it's like, oh, I want to finish my other thought, but oh, it's in terms of what I want. Maybe if I write it down, then I won't get too, let me go here. Okay, so, I'm not new to being asked, what is it that you want? You need to be clear on what you want. The universe, Mother, Father, God, the most righteous, the all high, the creator, responds to clarity, because that energy in and of itself is clear. It is not of confusion and ambiguity. It's clear, forthcoming, straightforward. But all of the things that I have also studied put me in a real contemplative mode as far as identifying how it is that I want what I want. Because I feel like, at least for me, I've been spending a lot of my time trying to figure out who is the I that is wanting, you know? A lot of times, and at least I know for me in the past, right? Like, a lot of things that I've stated that I've wanted, I've only thought that I wanted. And then it brings up a whole new level of issues in terms of, like, now I gotta figure out how to not be attached to the outcome. I gotta understand that I might say I want something, but it might show up slightly differently. Even if it doesn't actually show up slightly differently, even if it shows up as what I want or say, like, I think there's a big, a lot of times I hear about, well, I shouldn't say a lot of times, but I've heard about, like, people saying they say you request, like, oh, I said I wanted a yellow flower and a blue flower, and then the universe gives you a green flower, and then you're like, and it's like, well, that is yellow and blue, like, I mean, that's what you said. And so I think there's a lot of stuff like that, that then also come up that require further deconditioning and further pulling away from, which then only have you realize that, oh, you didn't really want that thing in the first place. And I know as we dig deeper, like from The Secret and Law of Attraction in general, it's not about the stuff. It's never about the stuff. It's about the feelings that we want, right? Now, I'm a pretty jovial person for the most part. I do go through my rough times, no doubt. But I'm pretty jovial. Like I'm pretty happy with life. I'm happy in a way for where it is for me. I don't have a whole lot to show for it. In terms of what other people, I guess in terms of what I think other people might applaud. But that's okay because I'm not doing it for their applause. And I think there's these fine lines with life because like I'm not doing it for the applause. I'm not doing anything that I do for applause. But if you ask most people, like the last talk where I was talking about with my sister and motivation, like a lot of people are motivated by accountability or by thinking other people are watching them or paying attention to them. That is enough to alter their behavior. And we're putting so much focus on like the people next to us, and it's like, but the Most High, right? Like, what if I put that sort of care and concern for accountability to the creator source? And I think a lot of people do that, but I think that's also, how do I say, that's also a great example of how the powers that be, the controllers, the rulers of this world, have taken away our information from us and then sold it back as something else, making us use our same faith, fervor, focus, and misguiding it and putting it in a way that is still serving a negative agenda. And I mean, that's what I would say is all about Jesus. I think Jesus was a great master teacher. Don't get it twisted. I think dude was dope. I probably would equate him more kind of like the Oracle in the Matrix. The Oracle was just another part of the system, however. The Oracle was just another very critical, very important dynamic in the whole thing playing out. So the Oracle, which probably wasn't even called the Oracle or anything, I don't think they ever disclosed like what the original name was for her. Because if you remember in the second Matrix Reloaded, when Neo's in with the architect and he's saying something, and he's like the and Neo's like the Oracle, and the architect's like, please. Like, she is no oracle. She only knows what happens because this has happened like 5-6 times. We're exceedingly efficient at it. So, I mean, you could get with this or you could get with that. But I think it's sort of like that. These things continue to repeat. The story of good and evil is playing over. I mean, I don't know. I think it was in Waking Life. And Richard Linklater had referred to Philip K. Dick, the sci-fi writer, who was kind of talking in this moment about him. I guess he was having a lucid dream, Philip K. Dick, but then he went lucid, but then he realized that he was like in the land of the dead, and then it goes into something about how like the battle for good and evil is happening right now. Like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like the Crusades are currently happening. The fall is currently happening. Like everything is happening in the now, and it's all around this like battle of good and evil. Which, I mean, if you understand that there is no time, right? Like that's just another construct, and there's something higher beyond that that you can understand. Then everything is right now. It is. It's all our point of focus and attention. It's all just happening. isn't, yeah. And I would wonder if that's not true. Like, if this whole good evil stuff, it's just all happening now. And that's why we have as above, so below, as within, so without, because we're all just in a constant battle, in this constant war with good and evil. And I would say good is when we're in the flow of what is happening. And I don't necessarily mean in such a predetermined sort of a way, because I do think there's free will, but I think the free will is that you can choose to be in the flow, or you can choose to fight the flow. And one's going to be ease and grace and make you feel good, and one's going to have a lot of strife, and you might get through it and get out of it, and but you're going to be looking at it as like, oh, red pill or blue pill stuff, right? And really the battle is actually over our minds, over our thinking of, am I going to go, will I release control and allow and flow, or will I use my mind to try to discern and put things in a box and to make judgments and to establish separation, right? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I would hope it's, yeah. But I was thinking about that in terms of just like all the stuff with my mind. So like Sundays I tend to be pretty quiet in the world. It's usually like a good study day and such for me. And this past Sunday I found myself just wanting to be really quiet, which, I don't know, was the weirdest thing for me, because all I've been saying is like lately I'm just getting so many more words. I'm like, maybe I should write, maybe I should video, I'm gonna talk to everybody, I wanna do this, I'm like, okay, yeah, could be a transit, might not. I don't think it is. I think this is just the design, and these are the things, like my design, and so yes, there's a connection to the transits, but my design and things that are just naturally in play as, you know, my seed is growing. Yeah. Well, I just lost where I was going again, so I hope I figure out how to cut a snippet out. So I went all over the place again. Now I was inherently getting on nature, good versus evil, and trying to, yeah, I guess that's where I'll go. So good versus evil, but like, being in the flow with the design, allowing, trusting the plan, like everything about like the Bible and stuff, it's all about faith. It's all about having this pure trust and knowing. And then if you look at law of attraction, it's like if you really know and believe it, these things are going to happen for you, because this is how the universe attracts. This is how it vibrates. This is just, I mean, it's universal law. It just is what it is. But there have been so many doubts, and I mean, yes, I deal with the shadow of doubt with the 63rd hexagram in my life purpose, and or the 60 gate 63 in my personality Earth. So I mean, I'm very comfortable with doubt and confusion in a very uncomfortable way. But there's so many doubts and things that have been placed upon us to make us question what we know for ourselves. And that's just so weird. I mean, I just feel like, I know I'm kind of all over the place, because I feel like it's all over the place. I feel like it's a bunch of stuff that all makes sense, but I don't know how to articulate it, and I feel a pressure to articulate, but I'm like, I don't know enough to actually say what I'm trying to say in a cohesive manner. Plus, I just don't like taking all the time. Like, the time that it takes to write and edit and figure out and plan a speech and do all of that. No, I just want to come out and just share with all of my mess ups and everything. I just want to do it. I guess the other part of that is like you're just gonna have to post it less and stop tripping. Get over it. Honestly, I think this is like more connected to my 5-2 profile. Not a common connection, probably for good reason. They're both projection lines, and the fifth line, it's, you know, it's the helper, it's a fixer, it wants to, you know, wants to get there and like, let's do something with this. Let's help. Let's do something. Save the world. And then the 2 is like, I'm good. I'm gonna chill. Whatever I'm supposed to do or need to be is going to just happen as long as I'm doing my thing. And those 2 seem to be constantly at heads in my head, butting heads in my head. The 5 is like, oh, we've got these ideas, we gotta share them. And the 2 is like, you really gotta share them? I mean, not every thought needs to be expressed. I mean, let's look at this again, right? 1156 is the channel that I have. Oops. The 11 is in my design, my body design, and the 56 is in my personality design. So my channel, and those are literally 5-2 as well. So my 11 is the 2, my unconscious, from the ajna, right? And then my 56 is my personality 5. So I'm legitimately, constantly being bombarded with thoughts, unconsciously, thoughts, and just like making connections and using my imagination and like, oh, no, 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 no. And then comes in contact with the conscious 56, 5, that's like, oh, we gotta do something with this. We're in the throat. We must manifest. We must share with the world. We must tell everybody these ideas. And it's like, no, maybe, just maybe, you thinking it was enough. Or whatever I end up doing as a result of the new ideas, what if that's enough? Like, I was considering this the other day, like, so I do have a background in behavioral sciences, and I would imagine, like most peeps who went that route, we wanted to help others, but we wanted to start with ourselves, right? We're like, okay, I'm looking at the world around me. I know some things are a little cry, and I mean, you know, I'm good enough with my understandings of the world where I can be like, okay, well, it can't be everyone else. It must be something in me. So therefore, let's go ahead and, sorry, just catching off guard. Let's go ahead and find out what's wrong so we can fix it. What did my mom do? What did my dads do? What did my family? What did my cousin? What, that boy not talking to me when I was in grade school did that? All those sorts of things, and it's all about fixing. And I don't know, the further, going into my journeys, I'm like, the more I've learned, the more I'm learning that I need to unlearn all of that. None of that can be used for prediction. You know, it can be used for ideas, it can be used for information, for your imagination, but you can't use that as hard data to predict for everyone, because no one is the same. No one's experiences, internally, externally, are the same. Nothing is identical in this world. And we all just want to, like, fix. And I think that's what I was like, it's like what you're doing is thinking, but what you're being is doing. And I journaled that the other day, and I was like, I think that's kind of deep. I kind of want to, like, really talk about it. And maybe I'll talk about it more another day. This is like first draft stuff, or maybe like second, third, because maybe there's some notes and things like that. But maybe I just need to stop trying to identify and label whatever this is. This can be whatever I want it to be, and I don't have to call it anything. Leslie. And so I'm just kind of trying to tie that into, you know, identifying what we want and such in the world, when I'm saying I deliberately want to have such and such a thing, and it's like, but if I can be happy, and if I'm in a state of joy and love, and I have faith that everything is happening for my rise and not my demise, and if I could just trust that, knowing that no, that doesn't mean that everything is easy peasy, gravy and pleasy. The rhyme wanted to happen. But it does mean that you'll find yourself always around just the right person or the right information or always the right things will come about that will help you get through whatever. Like, I'm so on the flippin' frequency right now that, like, all of my teachers this week straight up address things that I've been journaling and contemplating about. Naazir with Hidden Power University was talking about the nature of hell and being in our minds. Sabina and Juna with Synergy in Motion. They were talking about how we just entered the 62nd hexagram, moving from the shadow of intellect to the city of impeccability through the gift of precision. And this is part of the language of light. Look, that alone will require intense contemplation, but these are the sorts of things, like how much do I get caught up in, like, the words and the knowledge, and I need to know, I need to be informed, I need to know. But really, all of that is just putting us into more labels, more separation. I would much rather be impeccable than considered intelligent, or considered authentic and transparent than considered, like, smart and pretty. I would much rather prefer to be considered all of the above. And in my world, I am, because I declare it so. So, trusting that, having faith in that. Polona Aurea, with the Ascension pioneers, she was talking a lot about nature of good and evil. Even Karen Curry Parker was talking this week about just what's going on the HD world, in the cosmos. So I just feel like a lot of people, like a lot of the questions that I'm having, that I've just been generally like, oh, I want to talk about, but I don't know how to talk about them. I do feel like everywhere I'm looking, people are like, hey, well, we got some information for you. You can just listen to this, and this might help, or it might not. So yeah, just kind of going back to, like, how can you, with the Karen Curry Parker thing, she was saying something about, she was saying this week especially, but, like, I mean, we're in the times of how it's, you need to have a dream that lifts you so that you can be ready when it's time. But as she continued on, I was like, I wasn't fully resonating, because I struggle so much with that. What is it that I want? What is my dream? And then she said something about dream is what keeps you in your joy. And I was like, but I am joyful. And that's the difference. My dreams aren't on anything. Like, I don't think I need those to make me be joyful. And then I was realizing that I actually think maybe it's about making the dreams bigger. Like, maybe my flaw is in that I am identifying a dream as something that needs to be, what's my dream job? What's my dream car? And, like, those sorts of things, when I think about what I want, I don't have answers for that. But I have great dreams on a larger scale, dreams that I do actually believe in and have faith in, and I think that's why I am joyful, and positive and happy, and even when I go through my rough-ish, like, I always pull through, and I guess that's the most important thing in my world, since that's the only point of view that I really, really, really am sure about, and even then, I'm not, like, 100% certain, because this thing, So I think that's something I would not have recognized or realized yet had I not maybe gone through all these steps. Because let's face it, I've basically spent like a 2-year soundboarding mission to just be like, it's okay to say my ideas. And I keep wanting to control it. That's what it comes down to. Controlling how it looks, controlling how it sounds, control. And there's really nothing about this life that is about control. Not honestly, not genuinely. I would say, like, it is in the darker lords kind of view. Like, I do think that there is a nefarious order, a nefarious energy that is the ruler of this planet, of this dimension, if you will. And yeah, I think that, but I think on the grander, and I think from that point of view, yes, this is a world of a lot of terror and slavery and abuse and trafficking. And in that regard, I would say, well, as above, so below, right? I mean, we were created, we as humans, as a species, were created to be slaves, to, be the whim of these ruling dark energies. But my views have me believing and understanding that there are powers above those forces. And then obviously an ultimate all encapsulating of everything that's like not even good or bad, it's just it is. Which everything is interested in expansion, so everything is here to exist. So in that regard, jump around it, I do think that this world has a lot of awful, awful conditions to humans by other humans, rooted in this systemic, ritualistic, learned behavior over generations, millennia. I don't know how long this has been going on for. But I do think, like in the Matrix, we're at this point where Neo, and I would say Neo is the collective, right? I would say Neo is that 144,000, that tipping point, the 100th monkey, whatever you want to say, where consciousness has infiltrated, and now we're able to start seeing and asking different questions and having different realizations. And with that comes the awareness, probably through the help of the Oracle, Jesus, and other master teachers who've given us the Quran, the Buddhas, there's a lot of powerful, the Hopi Indians. There's lots of cultures, lots of information that have given us the hints with nobody just being like, this is how it is, because you gotta think for your own darn self. You gotta figure it out for your own darn self. But what it is for your own darn self is the power of your mind. I'm even reading the Screwtape letters by C.S. Lewis, and those are very curious. I'm slow at reading them because of the time, the language. It's that old speech, if you will. Ye old, like Y-E space O-L-D-E, right? Shopping with an E, 2 P's and an E type thing. And since it's dealing with like kind of esoteric stuff, it does take me a little longer to process it. I need to read it multiple times, but it's very curious, this whole conversation amongst demons, right? To control their patients, which are the people, to keep them from, what does he call it? I forget what he calls it. Like, I would refer to things of evil, satanic, devilish nature as the opposition. And that I got from Napoleon Hill's Outwitting the Devil, which is another great one. But I'm good with this sort of personification of, the opposition, if you will. Is that, don't they say, right, like, The devil is a lie. For the longest, I used to think that phrase was the devil is alive. And I mean, now I've been corrected, but now I'll be like, look, the devil is alive and the devil is a lie, right? So the devil is something that is real, but it's a lie too, because it's real based off of the power that you give to it from your imagination. The fact that it is as real as it is the result of, the negative thought forms that people have put to that energy, and then it's manifested. I mean, that's simple law of attraction. That's simple basics of the universe. And it's like, why is it so crazy for us to think that all of that can be used for good? Why is it that it seems that you have to be so radical, though, to really, like, go and explore the good? And I think it's because there's all these little fences and signposts, like, oh, you gotta tell people who you know what I mean? Like, well, not that you got to, but, like, I will tend to announce what I'm going to do before I do it. And I started this off with the understanding of, like, I don't even go back to a discussion group, like, the following week. Even if I've been going consistently for 3 months, never missed a week, that 1 week that I say, okay, I'll see you guys next week, it's almost guaranteed that I won't go there next week. Now, is that because I'm stating that and thinking that? Yes, I'm sure that's part of the problem. But could that be that maybe that's like your ding, 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 if you do that, don't do that? Like, so maybe I need to stop declaring all these things that I'm going to try and do and want to do, and maybe that's why I'm not getting to any of the doing. This video, yes, it's a little all over the place, but at least I was talking about some more stuff than just, oh, I want to talk. I mean, because here's the thing, the pressure for my design, is real. The thoughts are constantly there. The pressure is to do something with it. I have to get okay with, like, maybe those thoughts are just there. Maybe the thoughts are you doing what you're supposed to be doing. Maybe there's nothing to fix. You know, like, it's not that everything needs to be expressed. Just being who you are is the expression of your purpose. It is your doing. But all this other stuff, like me even, like I was saying, studying, you know, psychology, studying human design, getting so caught up in how do I live right? How do I become unconditioned? How do I live my purpose? And it's like, all of that is thinking. That's all thinking. And you're thinking about how to be better about doing. When your being is your doing. And that's enough. Like, I'm this close to being, like, anytime I start, I don't know. See, I'm going to start to announce it again, but I don't know, because I feel like I need to understand this for myself. And maybe there's some sort of a game I can play, or some kind of cue cards I can have for my mental self, where it's just like, oh, are you sure? Do you really need to do that? Do you really want to do that? Like, or is this pressure? There's got to be some sort of a question that'll tell me, is this pressure, or is this for true? Because when it's for true, you just do it. There's no second guessing. But then sometimes you have second guessing that is to test you, to push beyond that, to be courageous and fearless. I don't know. It's the never-ending story. So, I guess it'll just keep going. I look forward to it. Thanks for kicking it with me.